You are listening to Productivity Straight Talk with your host, Amber De La Garza. Amber is a sought-after productivity coach, trainer, speaker, and writer who gives entrepreneurs the straight talk on personal productivity. No BS, fluff, or overused jargon. Just actionable strategies to get results and succeed in business. And here is your host, Amber De La Garza, the Productivity Specialist.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to Productivity Straight Talk. Today is episode 112, Going Where the Money Is to Amplify Your Life with Brandi, Mowles. If you're an entrepreneur who wants actionable solutions to maximize profits, reduce stress, and make time for what matters most, then you're in the right place, and I'm so glad you've joined me. I'm looking forward to bringing this entrepreneurial case study to you in today's episode. You're going to meet our guest, Brandi. Brandi is a social media VA turned Facebook ad and sales funnel strategist. Brandi grew her income from 0 to 6 figures in just 10 months. When she isn't creating killer Facebook ads or teaching other service-based business owners how to scale, you can find Brandi with her husband and 17-month-old daughter taking family bike rides, visiting the farmer's market, and nerding it up at trivia nights. When listening in on my conversation with Brandi, you will discover how Brandi niched down and found her sweet spot, the journey that had led her to consistent $10,000 months, how productizing enabled her to scale, tips for deciding where to invest her time, the importance of aligning yourself with your people, and so much more. Now, before we dive in and meet Brandi, I want to let you know about one of the ways that we can work together. I am jumping in here because I am so excited to share with you a program that was designed with you in mind. It serves driven and successful entrepreneurs who prefer the fast lane and want to achieve results sooner. It's my 3-part VIP Accelerator program. Part 1 is a single full VIP day in which we'll completely overhaul your productivity and shortcut your path to success. During your customized experience, we'll work distraction-free and uninterrupted to equip you with the tools, training, and coaching to accomplish your goals, all the way from strategy to execution. In Part 2, we'll continue meeting virtually to fill in the gaps. Why? Because building a foundation for success is not enough. You'll be held accountable for continuing to work your plan so that you don't plateau, but keep accelerating your success. In Part 3, you'll receive unlimited email and Voxer access to me so that I can support you to overcome any obstacles that you may stumble over while implementing and executing your strategic plan. Simply put, the VIP Accelerator program is a business coaching and strategy session on steroids for entrepreneurs who want results fast. And you've got choices. You can choose from my VIP Platinum or VIP Gold program to fit your current needs and budget. Ideal clients for my VIP Accelerator program are driven, successful entrepreneurs who want results fast. If that sounds like you, you'll have the opportunity to kick off your VIP Accelerator program with a VIP day with me in multiple cities around the US. This summer, you'll have the opportunity to book a day with me in Las Vegas, New York, and Orlando, with more cities to come. Check the website to find upcoming cities near you or to book your VIP Accelerator program now. Life is too short to feel stressed out, overwhelmed, and overworked day after day with little to show for it. If you're not 100% happy with the state of your business and you're working extra hours and days at the expense of your personal life, it's time to strategize with an expert to change your circumstances. It's time to get results fast. Book your VIP Accelerator program today at theproductivityspecialist.com/VIP. Again, that's theproductivityspecialist.com/VIP. And now let's get to the straight talk. Welcome to Productivity Straight Talk. Brandi, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm super excited to be here. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I think we have a mutual friend. I know we have a mutual friend that reached out to me about your journey and shared with me. And I was like, yes, I want to hear her story. And I think our listeners want to hear your story. So today we're doing sort of an entrepreneurial case study where we're going to talk about where you were at. How did you solve some productivity challenges? And then the best part is like, where are we at now, right? We love those transformational stories. So before we dive into that, can you give our listeners a little bit about who you are, who you serve, and where you're at right now in your business?
Sure. So first off, I'm a wife and then a mom and an entrepreneur. And so I live in a small town, but I like the big city attraction. So I love to travel. And right now I'm a Facebook ad and Instagram strategist. And then I have the second arm of my business, which helps online service-based entrepreneurs scale to consistent $10,000 months without hiring a team. And so that is where I am right now. I love my business right now. We're in kind of a crazy time, but it's definitely like so fun to be an entrepreneur.
Yes, it is. I think that, well, first of all, I love that you just said like you have a second arm. We're going to be talking about all of the arms of your business because that's what today's about. But I want to really bring forth the conversation about how you've hit six figures without a team or a very small team. I think that's very intriguing for most, especially since I talk a lot about building a team and outsourcing here. So I would love to find out what that story is. So share with us, how long have you been in business and why did you start your business?
So it is June as we're recording this, and this marks my 1 year in business. At the end of June will be 1 year that I've been in business. It's flown by. And I started my business because I had another career before, and I left it when I was 8 months pregnant to be at home with my daughter. And then when she turned around 4 months, I was getting that itch to be like, okay, I need something a little bit more. Being a mom is so important. But for me, I just needed something that was mine, that I could show up, I could be successful, and then also be at home with her. So she is the reason why I started this business, but it was also for me.
Yeah. So did your previous career set you up for success in this one? Or was it a true, like you took skill sets, but it wasn't like a natural transition? How did that happen for you?
I feel like I've been getting ready for this position since I was like 5 years old. And so
That's awesome.
definitely like college, law school. And then my previous career was actually in direct sales, and got to the top fairly quickly. And I definitely think some of the things that I learned there, especially with communication and how to just wow clients, definitely transitioned into this business as well. And then some of the mistakes I made in that business were learning lessons that transitioned into this business as well.
Okay, excellent. So you've been in business for 1 year, and does it look extremely different today than it did a year ago?
Oh my gosh, it's like night and day difference. I'm like, wait, all this happened in a year?
Right. There's like a saying, like the days are long and the years are short. I think that's so true. I think it's true with raising babies and raising businesses. Like that seems a very, very true statement. Okay, so let's dive into the before. So you transitioned from another career. You did a stay-at-home mom for 4 months, and you're like, and I need an and. So it wasn't enough to have an infant at home. You decided to start a business. What did that look like for you? And what did that business look like in the beginning for you?
Right. So when I got started with a virtual assistant program that teaches you how to start a virtual assistant, work from home. And at first I thought virtual assistants just like sent out postcards because I had used virtual assistants before, and I was like, there's no way I'm sending out postcards. So I knew how to leverage social media. I knew how to do some email marketing. And so I started kind of like a general VA, but focused mainly in social media, Pinterest, and email marketing. I learned about opt-ins really quick. So I was kind of doing all the things that were in that arena. Mm-hmm. And that's how I got started that was like half of my business, half this year. I was doing all the things for everyone.
Okay. And then at some point, it sounds like the universe or clients gave you some feedback, and it's been a journey of niching down, like down into the things that you love to serve your clients with. So what does that look like today? How are you serving your clients?
So today I'm serving my clients strictly as a Facebook, Instagram strategist. And I even niche down farther than that as I work with course creators and memberships, people who are, already have successful courses, but they just want to take it to that next level. And the way to do that is for Facebook ads. So that is 90% of who I work with. I do still have a few local businesses that I work with because they've been with me since pretty much the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Still even transitioned them into now I'm doing ads instead of organic social media for them.
Got it. Okay. So now that we've painted this picture, you've got a 4-month-old, a baby at home. You don't have a sitter. So you were primarily responsible. So that means you were building the business in what type of schedule? Give us like a snapshot of what Brandi's schedule was when she started her business.
Brandi's schedule when I started my business was a hot mess. So it was 5 months when I really got into my business. And at that point, we were still having sleeping issues. There was no nap. There was no schedule. And so it was just me. And she was actually sleeping on me for naps. Mm-hmm. So it got really intentional with when she was sleeping on me, she was in the Catan so I could still work. And then at 6 months, we got all kinds of stuff. And that transitioned into a more stable sleep schedule. And that's when naps became so critical in my business. And then also early mornings, late nights. Now my business is more about nap schedule. I know when she naps, and then independent play. So it's still always working around her schedule, around my husband's schedule. And then now this summer, my husband's off. So I do get a little bit more intentional work.
Yeah. So with those restraints, I think those restraints alone could scare a lot of people away. So it sounds like you have a lot of ambition and grit to be like, yeah, I'm going to start a business on nap times, which she wasn't even napping on her own, nighttime. And so how did you approach your work when you were so restricted with the amount of time that you had to actually do all the things?
Well, I first think when you know why you're in business, she is such a big why. And when you know why you're in business and why it's so important, you just make it work. I believe as women, we just make it work where we can. And so with me, it was just knowing that the time that I had included very intentional work. It wasn't scrolling on Facebook. It wasn't scrolling through Pinterest. It was this is what has to be done. So this is what we're doing. And when I was doing all of the things, I did have days where they were batched out. So Thursday were Pinterest days, Fridays were Facebook days, Tuesdays were Instagram, Mondays were mine. There was days for discovery calls. So everything did have a batch. And now my business looks very different where I'm not batching. But when I was doing all the things, batch work did it was my top thing.
Would you say that the restraint on your time forced you to niche down quicker than maybe a lot of other business owners?
I think so. So I stopped doing things that I didn't enjoy. So I cut out Instagram really quick as a service provider. I didn't want to do that. I cut out email marketing. I got to the point where I was only doing Pinterest and Facebook. And then I started learning Pinterest ads, and I felt restricted by it's still so new. You can get great results, but there's only so much you can do. Where with Facebook, I had started listening to podcasts and I was like, man, I really love these numbers. I love what it sounds like. And that's when I decided that I needed to let some clients go. I was at the $6,000 a month mark, but I was maxed out, exhausted. I let a few clients go that were coming up, and I dove into Facebook ads in December. January, started marketing myself as a Facebook ad strategist and jumped up to 10,000. And so it was more of me being exhausted, but knowing that I wanted to get in. I was sick of the little tedious things. I didn't want to continuously schedule pins. That wasn't bringing me the fulfillment that I started this business for. But then Facebook ads hit that spot. That thing that I was chasing, Facebook ads was that.
Right. I think sometimes we hear people's stories and it seems oh, that was an easy decision or a quick decision because we only had so long to tell it. But tell me what happened behind the scenes. Was this talks with your husband? Was it fearful that you were dropping your clients when you were making $6,000? And, what was the mindset around, having the faith that if you niched down and followed what you were passionate about or what fulfilled you would actually also follow with revenue? Can you kind of talk to us to that?
Yeah. So I think the first thing that it comes down to is money management. And with us, and I think coming from that direct sales background, my business is my business. It's got its own bank account. It's managed its way. So I don't really discuss these things with my husband. All he cares is like that the money shows up, like my paycheck, whatever I decide that is. And he knows how much I make each month, but like, I don't ask him like, hey, can I buy this course? Like the business is paying for that. So that's the first thing is I don't have to have those discussions. The second thing is I was very mindful of my money and the fact that just because I was making $6,000 doesn't mean I was paying myself $5,000 or $6,000. I knew what my family needed, and that's what I was paying myself each month, the same thing. And then when it came time to invest in a $3,000 course, the money was there to make it happen. When it came down to dropping from 6,000 to 4,000, it didn't matter. My family was still getting the same amount. And so I think when you have that going on and it's separate, then as long as your family's still getting the same amount and you have managed that, then it was a no-brainer for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess the better question would be, did you talk to anyone? Did you have a coach or a mentor that kind of guided you through? And the reason I had jumped to husband is because I run very few things by my husband too. But usually when I'm in turmoil over a decision, it's like always top of mind. So I'm bringing it up and kind of chatting it out with him. But I get not making, it's your business and not having to run business decisions. I remember the first time I ran a big decision, like financial decision by my husband. And it was because I was investing in a $20,000+ coaching program. Right. And I was just like, okay, look, I'm not asking for like green light on the revenue, but like, am I crazy? Like, what does this look like? And I think that he was also kind of like, well, do you think that you would find it of value? It wasn't even like, oh, how would it affect, your income in the house or anything like that. It sounds like do you run your business with profit first methodology?
I've tried. I just know where my money needs to go. Like I know how much I need to put away for taxes. I know like when there's courses coming up, but I'm not someone who buys the cheap courses. If I'm investing in a course, I'm investing in like a course. It is not, because then I know I'm going to go through it and get value out of it. And that's been part of my strategy too, as I show up in these people's lives that put on the course, and that helps me move forward as well. So, I don't do profit first. I just know where the money's going.
Yeah. No, well, that's good. That's all that matters. For me, I've done profit first for years, but it's the same methodology or strategy as like you pay yourself, like you have a set paycheck and then you work your expenses around that, because we are our most highly valuable employee in the business. And so our businesses have to serve us. So it sounded like you make that a priority to have a set income for your family. And I love that. And so just to close the loop on this, who's your go-to, if anyone, for running kind of business decisions or, what's next in your business? Do you have anybody?
So I didn't at that time. I'm like, I don't like to be told what to do. So I kind of just like do what I want. And for me, I can make very quick decisions, but people think I'm impulsive and I'm not. I run through all the consequences. I run through the pros and cons in my head, but I can do it very quickly. And so for me, it was a no-brainer because I was like, okay, I'm going to drop some clients, but this means I'm going to be able to invest in a course, which then means I'm going to make even more money. So I went through that pretty quickly. And at that point in my business, no, I did not have a coach.
Okay. So just to recap, you are limited with time. You had plateaued on your revenue because of time restraints. So you pivoted and niched down, and immediately saw a bump in your monthly revenue. What do you think niching down did to help you with productivity? How did that help so drastically with revenue?
Well, now, and sometimes I do these things and I don't realize I'm doing them, and it takes someone else pointing them out. And so I just got back from a conference and I was talking to one of my now coaches, and I was talking to him and he was like, Brandi, you've productized your business. You've literally, this is why you can make so much in a month without a team, is because not only are the systems, but when I niche down so far, everything's productized. It's plug and play type thing. And it just makes, he asked me, how many clients could you actually take on? And I was like, I could probably take on 20 and be okay. And he was like, that's insane.
And when you say productize, just for everyone that's listening, it's like you've templated it. You have the same process. So phases that you're running your clients through. So you could have multiple clients at a particular phase, but everyone runs through from A to Z. Is that correct?
Right. And even down to my ad copy, when I told him, I was like, oh yeah, all my webinar copies, they get like the same thing, but I'm like plugging their information in. He was like, what? I was like, it converts amazing. Why would I change it? And he was like, that's so smart because so many of us think we have to constantly be changing things. And I have just found what works and I just run with it.
Oh my gosh, that's great. Okay, so you've said it a couple times, so I want to dig deep. You keep saying with no team. So what does that mean to you? And what kind of support do you have in your business?
So I've literally had no team until May. And in May, I hired a VA. And what she does is she writes my weekly newsletters. And now with my program for VAs, she does their newsletter. And then when I was doing YouTube videos, she would take those and turn them into a blog post. But I'm not doing YouTube videos anymore. So she just writes newsletters. So that is my team.
Really? So you do your own accounting, bookkeeping?
Yeah, I do QuickBooks.
And how many hours a week are you working?
Oh, that's such a bad question. Everyone asks me this question. And you know what? Right now, I am in a really busy time in my business. And so it is busy right now. And I'm working a lot, like probably more than I've ever worked in my business with my program. But before this, when it was just Facebook ads, I would say I was working maybe 25 hours a week. And once again, I don't know. How I judge it is, do I have enough time to get everything done? Do I have enough time for my family? And then do I feel like at the end of the day, I've accomplished what I want to accomplish? And that's kind of how I manage my time. Right now, I'm in that phase where I'm like, things are going a little crazy, but I know it's a phase and I'll get out of it.
It's growing pains because you're shifting and everything's new. But I would imagine you're going to do very similar to what you did with Facebook ads. Is it takes a lot of work to create the templates and the process and the flow, but you're currently doing that for this other leg of your business. And once you're past that, then you're going to get those return on investment. That's kind of how I see it. So you're investing a lot of time right now, but there should be a return on that investment with these processes. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah. And that's what's taking so long now is like, as we're building out this whole program and everything, and it's the first go around, like all those templates are having to be made. So then it's like not that big a deal the next time we launch or things like that. So yes, that's all being built out right now, which is fun.
Yeah.
But exhausting.
So one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you was because I knew that you worked a limited amount of time. And I know that you've hit a very successful revenue very, very quickly. And I feel like you had some tips or strategies, like what you did focus on or what you didn't focus on. And again, I think this is going to be the same thing as when you went to the conference and you didn't realize you're doing it. You just did it. Because so many business owners, if they look back at their first year, or maybe they're in their first year, they're like tweaking and retweaking their logos, their branding, their marketing, their website, and never even getting out of a lot of those kind of weeds and not focusing on other activities. So give us some insight into like, okay, so your daughter's 5 months old, you're open for a business. Where did you invest your time, a majority of your time? Like what types of activities got your attention?
Marketing is always the number one thing. Like, how can I market myself? How can I market my business? That is what keeps the lights on. That's important to me. I always have a set number of discovery calls and I know my conversion rate for discovery calls. So if I need one new client, I know I'm going to get 3 clients on a call. And even that, my conversion rate on discovery is for every 3 calls, I get 2 clients. So it's really high. So, but that's from doing all of them and focusing on marketing, discovery calls, and then client work. That's where my time is spent. I don't believe that you have to have all the things that everyone says. I don't believe you need a blog, a YouTube channel. That's stuff that you add once you're at a good place in your business. But if you need to make money, the first things you focus on are marketing, discovery calls, or whatever calls you call them. That's what I call them.
Right.
Pitch calls, whatever they are. And then also then that client work. And so that's where my focus is. And when I'm in the car, I'm listening to podcasts. But even then, I'm only focusing on 2 to 3 mentors at a time. I'm not jumping around to see what everyone's doing. And if you were to ask me who my competitors are right now, I would have no idea. I keep the blinders on and I just run my own race, and that gets me to where I'm going.
Oh my gosh, there's so much gold there. So I'm going to unpack it a little bit. And I know you're not a listener of Productivity Straight Talk per se, but one of the things that I talk about a lot is that our most productive activities will fall in one of 4 buckets. And if you're new to Productivity Straight Talk and you want to hear an in-depth about productivity and profitability, head back to episode 35. But I'm going to give a quick run through and just show the parallels. So bucket number 1 is marketing and visibility, which Brandi said, you need to be marketing and visibility. Bucket number 2 are sales conversations, and Brandi called them discovery calls. So whatever that looks like, where you're sitting, looking eye to eye with somebody and you're asking to do business with them, asking if they'll do business with you. And then number 3 is client work. So bucket number 3 is the actual doing the work that's bringing in the revenue. And then bucket number 4 is leadership. And I truly believe that while, Brandi, you're running on a very, very small team right now, inevitably, I think that you will be growing a team. And so now your high value activity will also be investing in others through leadership. So she's literally didn't know my buckets. She's on here because she was recommended to me that she's highly productive and got massive results in her business. And when I asked her where she's investing her time, she literally laid it down in my 3 buckets. So way to go, Brandi. I didn't know. I know you didn't know because we know you hadn't previously listened to these episodes as we're just meeting each other. So what did you do? So there's 5 buckets, right? So 4 of them are your highly valuable productive buckets. And then the 5th bucket is the other bucket, right? The other bucket where so many people live in. And then they tell me, I don't have time for marketing, visibility, sales calls, and servicing your clients. So what would you say contributed to your such focus, right? Like you're new in business, you're in a new industry, yet it sounds like you knew something, like you knew that this is where you need to invest your time. What would you attribute that to?
I told you, I've been getting ready for this position since I was 5 years old.
I love that.
I really don't know. I think that a mixture of a lot of things. I think it was just sometimes like some people just have business sense. I'm not saying I do, but also I think business sense and common sense kind of go together. Mm-hmm. So for me, I know spending time going through all these courses and doing all the things that everyone wants to do, it doesn't make sense to do that if you don't have time to do things that make you money. I see the money and that's where I go. Right. And that's what makes sense. And then I nurture those relationships with those clients. And then even things like for me, I always had 3 and 6 month contracts before I was doing Facebook ads. And that, like, once again, I knew I needed to market more if I was coming up to a bunch of contracts that were ending and I wasn't sure how they were going to stay. So honestly, I really think some of it is just common sense. You go where the money is, and then you don't focus on the things until you have more time to like play with the things that don't necessarily make you money right away.
Right, right. Well, I get that it may be common sense for you, which is a really, really great thing. I would have to just say that even in my own journey, I've had to get clearer and clearer with that in 7 years of business. I like to tell this story, and I swear if I just told this in a previous episode recently, sorry, but like my first website was $400 and I bought it on Etsy. Like if anyone knows anything about online marketing, you don't buy websites on Etsy, okay? And the $400 website actually got me a high-end luxury client where I did corporate training for several years in a row. And I'm so glad that happened, not because of just the client and the relationship or the revenue, but it was literally what I needed because I have a tendency to want to make things, tweak them and perfectionist and overthink some things. And so it was things like that have come into my world that are like, okay, Amber, no, that you need to focus on what's actually going to make a difference and not what you think is going to make the difference, which could literally get you suffocating and drowning in the other bucket. So I think that many people just need to hear that. If you feel like you're so overwhelmed, you might be working your days backwards through this, right? Like I think a lot of people start in the busy bucket and not the other way, which is like, okay, how do I tell the world about myself and how I can help them, which is marketing and visibility, and then work it that way.
And I think sometimes too, it's because the other bucket is safe. Like working on your website and branding and all that, it's safe, but marketing yourself and getting on those calls and client work, like that's scary. It gets so scary. And so sometimes it's so easy to want to be safe when we really need to push ourselves. And that's where we like just soar. But it is like super scary to get in those buckets.
I love that you said that. So it's sort of like delaying doing what it is we know that will serve our business, but because we're scared, we're not confident that what we will do is the right thing, or that maybe we're not ready to charge X for clients, or maybe, we're not really clear about exactly how we provide value. And my best advice for anyone that's listening is go do what Brandi did, because once I did what Brandi did, which was just serve the clients and have conversation after conversation after conversation, there was no amount of webinar, course, training that was able to prepare me to be a better closer or better at, saying how I do what I do. And so if you're hiding in this other bucket because those are fears that you have, or maybe that's currently where you're at in your business, the best advice I think Brandi's saying, but I would agree with, is like, just go do the thing and you'll get better and better and better at it. Right?
Right. That's exactly it.
So Brandi, you weren't closing 2 out of 3 your first day you opened your business, right? I mean, I'm guessing.
No.
I don't know you, but I'm like, dang, if she was. Okay, now we're talking about that. But I think it's something you got better at with experience and just repetitiveness and doing it over and over.
And I think one of the things that direct sales did set me up for is I was on a lot of recruiting calls. Like I heard no so many times. I learned the things to say, not necessarily to say, but I know I studied a lot of psychology when I was in direct sales of how people think, what words you should and shouldn't say, that type of thing. So a lot of that did transfer over. But the big thing is I knew to work the numbers. That is one thing that taught me. And so starting out with discovery calls, I just knew I needed to get on as many discovery calls as possible so I could figure out my number and my conversion rate for this business. So that was like first. And then, I did have a higher close rate than probably most people starting out, but it's just because I had heard no so many times and I wasn't afraid to hear no in this business.
Yes. Okay. Do you have any advice on how other people can get more used to hearing no? Is there a secret?
No's always hard. No's always hard because I think the big thing is we want to say that we want to attach something to no, that means we're not good enough. We're not worthy. But no doesn't mean anything. I've heard this from James Wedmore and it's so good. No doesn't mean anything unless you attach something to it. So no is just a no. Like stop putting that on you. Don't put it on them. It's just a no. Like move on. It's your numbers. Like this week, I got a no. I know why I got a no, but it doesn't matter why I got the no. And so it doesn't matter if someone tells you your pricing is too high. That doesn't mean you drop your prices, because I think a lot of people, that's what they're like, oh my gosh, someone told me my prices are too high. But the other 2 clients I got this week are paying those prices. So when you're on enough discovery calls, you stop attaching that no to anything. But that is one thing I heard and I was like, oh my gosh, that's so true. No doesn't mean anything unless we attach something to it.
Right. And it's always a great story that we attach to it, right? Like juicy. Right. And hardly ever serves us well. Okay. So I like that. No attachment to the no. Alrighty. Well, you also said one other thing that I wanted to circle back on, and I hope our listeners heard it. And it was, I listen to podcasts when I'm in the car, but I choose 2 to 3 mentors and I stick to it. This is like, I've done an entire episode about content obesity. And one of my recommendations was, pick your person and go deep and listen and learn. But it sounds like you learned early on that it could be really confusing to listen to multiple people on the same topic.
Yeah. And when you're first getting started out, you're like, oh my gosh, who do I go with? And I think you just listen to a few and then you're like, this is my person. And so my person started out as Amy Porterfield, and she's still one of my people. And then
I think she's a lot of people's person.
So and so that's the other thing. Like, why wouldn't you want to listen to her? And then I found some other ones that they served me at one point in my business. They don't serve me anymore. So now it's pretty much just Amy Porterfield, Rick Mulready, because he's ads and he's my coach. And then those were my only 2 that I really spent a lot of time listening to. But then once I hit the 6 figures, it's like I started getting these mind games, which I didn't have before.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was like, oh, I need some head help. And so that's when James Wedmore came into my life. And so now it's James Wedmore, Rick Mulready, and Amy Porterfield. But even there, picking James, it was because Rick, someone I trust, I knew that that was one of his mentors. So I'm very cautious with who I let into my space. And I think that helps too.
And then Rick Mulready was because Amy Porterfield and him are connected, right? As friends. Yeah, exactly. Small group. So anyone that doesn't know who we're listening to, it's okay. We're not trying to name drop. It's just people that have poured into us at some point in our businesses as well. For sure. For sure.
And I think the big thing is not only the content that they put out, but also making sure like them as people align with who you are as a person. Because I was listening to other people and then I was like, I like their content, but these aren't my people. Like they're not talking my language. And so I think it's not only good to find good content, but also people who align with you morally and as a person as well.
I agree. I often say that. I think that you've got to be like shaking your head and you're like, yes, yes, when you hear somebody, but it was a yes to something new, or maybe they explained it in a different perspective, but the yes is like, that feels right to me. Like, okay, I get that, right? Because you can listen to someone else on a different topic and you're like scratching your head and, you know, maybe it doesn't feel like it's in alignment with who you are and how you can execute. And I think that's a huge thing that people need to listen to or be sensitive to as they're consuming people's content, for sure.
Right. Definitely.
Awesome. Alrighty. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you think has contributed to your success in such a short period of time that you would like to share with our listeners?
I think the other big thing is just having systems in the back end to support. And so that is my big thing, not hiring a team. And so my team is ClickUp and Dubsado, and they run like my business just like if I had an assistant. So that is definitely the other contributor, is just having those back end systems.
Yes. Okay. And so you've invested money into these programs to be like an extension of your team, right? I love that because like I spend a lot of money on Zapier and different things like that. And so I always say, you know what, this is actually cutting my costs because I could manually be paying somebody to do these things, or I can create automation and systems with programs.
And the funny thing is, ClickUp cost me $30 for the year. And I've only paid ever 1 month of Dubsado because my affiliate marketing game is really strong for them. So I don't even think I have to pay for them for the next 4 years. So
really,
I keep my costs really low too. I run a very lean business as well. And I think that's helped me grow as well.
Okay. So talk to us a little bit about Dubsado. So how do you use it? What do you use it for?
Yeah. So it manages all my clients. So that's where my scheduler is, my questionnaire. Then from there, they get, once they're onboarded, they get another client questionnaire, my Zoom links in there. I mean, it houses their whole portals in there. Everything's kept nice and neat. I'm not searching for things. They're not searching for things. And then before, I had multiple streams of income coming from all over the place, and it was just client work. It did my bookkeeping as well. Mm-hmm. And then, like I said, it's scheduler. It does my canned email response. Like, it is my life. It's my assistant, and it just keeps everything really nice. I love Dubsado. And then ClickUp just manages my day-to-day tasks for my clients.
Okay. All right. And how has been your experience with ClickUp overall?
Oh my gosh, I love it. I've tried Trello, I've tried Asana, and I loved Asana. And then there's some things you just need those can boards for. And that was like swipe files and things like that. And so when I switched over to ClickUp, I was like, this is like Trello. Asana had a baby, and somehow Google Calendar was mixed in. And what I love is now that I do have my VA is I can just assign her to things. There's dependencies. It's amazing. And it's color coordinated. And I like it too, because if you like list, you can look at it in a list. If you like the boards, you have the board. And if you work from a calendar, you have the calendar. So yeah, I just love how it's all like for anyone's brain, it works.
Yes, yes. Okay, awesome. So I have been looking at ClickUp too, and I loved it for all those reasons. I think everyone processes information different. And like you said, it was like Trello and Asana had a baby, meaning you can see the same information in multiple ways. And I think that's so valuable to lean into because I like my information in a certain way, but also I found that certain work, like processing podcasts, I like the Kanban, like the cards that go across and moving my workflow from left to right. But my daily like tasks, I like them in a list. And so it has so many options for sure. Okay, so now you have systems, you invested in systems, you invested in setting those systems up and using automation. You have a part-time VA. In fact, you told us what she does, but like how many hours are we talking here?
Let's see. I'm thinking about maybe like 10.
Okay. Yeah. Like 10. Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. And do you see yourself leveling up the hours like as you grow, or are you really, really like sensitive to just wanting to keep a super small team?
No, I think as a service-based business, I don't need help there. It's like solid. It's just done. Now that I have my program and everything, I'm finding there's whoever said passive income, like it should be like, I don't know, but there's nothing passive about this program. And so we even had this talk this morning and I was like, hey, after the launch, we need to get together and come up with a package for you because I want her to be like over the membership, like all the support and things like that. So yes, for the membership, I definitely have to have help. For my Facebook ad business, I don't think so. I think it runs so solid that I don't see bringing on anyone for that. But for the other arm, definitely.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. So, all right. So we transitioned through some of your limitations, how you started your business, some challenges. We talked through so many solutions, mindset and automation, and about how you invested your time in high value activities. So what does business look like for you today? Like, how has that served you, your family? Like how's that shown up for you?
Okay, so this is so crazy, but I was looking at this morning, and from January as we're recording this, January 2019 to June 2019, if I don't take on any more clients this month, which I probably will, but if I don't take on any more, I will have done $90,000 in 6 months, and only 4,000 came from my program.
Wow.
So it's going really good. And my family, I think the biggest thing is just seeing the impact it's had on my family in a way that things that we thought were not possible for us anymore. Like we picked up and moved from Florida where we loved when my daughter and moved back home because it was cheaper to live here and everything. And now the possibilities of going back, that's an option now where we thought that was like a chapter of our life that was closed. As we're recording this morning, we booked a flight, a Disney resort and everything. And Friday to Tuesday, we leave to go to Disney World for the weekend. And like, who does that? But now because of my business, we have those possibilities. And I think that's the biggest thing is like, I have the systems in place, my business runs, and we can pick up and travel. And also we just have, anything's possible for us now. And so I love the saying, I've heard this and I think it's so great. Money does not change you. Money amplifies you. Mm-hmm. So we gave when we didn't have money. I can't wait to see like all the impact that we can have on the world now that money is more fluid.
Yeah,
so, I don't want to sound like we're just rolling in dough, but we're definitely like, it's definitely changed our life and it's just opened up so many possibilities. And the big thing is that I can't wait to see my daughter, how she sees her mom handle like her business and still being at home. And we're able to travel. Like Disney doesn't have to be something we save up 3-5 years for. It's something that can happen in a weekend.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love that. You actually beat me to it. So I was going to say, so what does it look like now? What does the future look like? And it sounds like your future is so bright and that you're focusing really on the impact that you'll have on the world and your community and your daughter. One of the things that lights me up too is just being a great example to my son. He, like your daughter will, has grown up in my business. We always joke like he's my little mascot. All my clients know who he is. When I did a lot of local business and not just, like virtual business. He went to all my meetings with me, chapter meetings, like if I was in an association. I mean, he was my sidekick. And I did that growing my business while my son was growing. A little bit less now because he's in school all the time and all that kind of stuff, but he still sees, and your daughter will see, she'll see that, it's different than maybe I know how I was raised. I wasn't told anything can be your future. I wasn't, especially not just told, I wasn't shown that you can write your future. And entrepreneurship is one of the ways you can do that. So I think that's awesome.
Oh yeah, it's definitely so different. My husband and I have the conversation all the time, how things are so different than the way we grew up and what was expected of us, and now the life that we're creating.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, I'm so happy for you. I was so happy when you had kind of come into my world, and I wanted to jump on this interview because I share many aspects of this, but I think there's nothing more powerful than hearing a real life case study, right? A real life Brandi has a baby and 25 hours and a dream and a wish, and she focused on the right things and made it happen. So Brandi, congratulations. And maybe we'll have to bring you back in another year and you're like, oh my gosh, can you believe what happened this year? Kind of retake on this episode.
Oh my gosh, that would be amazing because there are big things in store for this year.
I could only imagine. Well, congratulations and thanks for being here and sharing with our listeners. So if our listeners want to find out more about all your awesomeness and things that you're doing, where do they find you and connect with you?
So the best way to connect with me is on Instagram. It's at Brandi, Brandi, and company. And that's the best way. You can always DM me. I love answering DMs and connecting with people on there. And then my website is just brandimowles.com.
Okay, excellent, excellent. And then I think you had something special for our listeners today that you wanted to leave them with. What is it and how do they get it?
Yeah, so it's kind of like pick your journey, pick your exploration. And that is if you go to brandimowles.com/productivity, you can go to, if you're thinking hey, do I need to hire a Facebook manager? You can click there, take the quiz. It'll take you through and see if you're actually ready to hire a Facebook ads manager. And then the other journey is if you just need to get more clarity on where to find clients, you can head over there and I have a great training on how to optimize your LinkedIn to attract your ideal client.
Oh my gosh, that's great. And so we will definitely have links in the show notes and be sharing them with everyone. Thank you so much for sharing your time and your story with us today, Brandi, and I wish you all the best.
Thanks so much.
Well, there you have it. Brandi shared with us a part of her story and where she pulled back the curtains and let us know what it really took to take off in 10 months in her business. I think it does really, really require hyper focusing, especially early on in your business. One, it really gets you to a level of success quicker, but also it's building the habit and behaviors that will serve you well throughout your business. And when we're newer in our businesses and we're not super, super clear and we just do work, it becomes busy work. And what Brandi did really, really well, in my opinion, was get really, really clear about who she serves, how she serves them. She stayed in her own lane, kept her head down, and did the work. And she wasn't really, really focused on all the other things. And as she grows and as she has team and more time as this progresses, she'll be able to go back and refine some of these things. If there's anything that I could share that I think she did wonderful was that she focused on revenue really, really early in her business. And she focused on revenue through how can she provide exceptional service to her clients. And that in itself has been able to allow her to have referrals and build her business out. Sometimes we can get stuck and tweaking and branding and colors and logos and marketing and copy and all the things that we think we need before we actually can serve a client. And I have found that not to be true. Now, I do think that those things will help you and help you down the road as you position yourself as an expert. But when we first get into business, many of us have a specific timeline that we are either going to consider ourselves making it or not making it. And that all has to do with revenue. Are you able to provide and bring income to your family? Are you able to support the additional expenses that may be coming up because you're now a business owner? Revenue is so important. And one of the things that I tie together all the time is that productivity plus profitability is what your business needs. And the reason we want to be more productive, the reason we want to work on improving our behaviors and our skill sets and our habits around productivity is so that it can drive increased revenue and thus increased profitability in our businesses. Increased revenue and profitability in our businesses essentially is the lifeblood of our business. It allows us to show up in ways that we may not be able to show up if we are not making a revenue. We're able to serve our families and our communities and maybe your nonprofit of choice, wherever you think that your money can make an impact, you're able to do that through profitability in your business. So I really love that I had this opportunity to pull back the curtains and show you that it is possible. Now, Brandi's story is going from 0 to 6 figures in 10 months. Your story could be going from today, wherever you're at, to 6 figures or beyond, or just taking the skill set that she shared with us about having her head down, staying super focused on servicing the clients at a high level, and utilize those skill sets and those tips that Brandi shared with us to then launch your business from wherever you're at to wherever you want to go. All right, guys, it has been my pleasure of bringing this episode of Productivity Straight Talk to you. And while I have loved having you listen, you know I need to be straight with you. No change, no change. Without taking action, nothing will change for you or your business. So based on what you heard from Brandi today, based on what you learned, or maybe it was an aha, or maybe it was nothing that either of us said, but it was a thought that popped up as you listened to this episode. Ooh, do I love those little nuggets that came up for you while you were listening to us. I want you to grab it, identify it, hold on to it, and execute on that nugget. It's often small, simple steps of implementation week after week, day after day, that have the biggest impact on our businesses. So if you heard something today that inspired you to maybe approach your to-do list a bit differently and prioritize where you're investing your time a bit differently today, then I am encouraging you to go do that. You have the power to make that decision for yourself today. I would love to hear what you thought of today's episodes and some of your ahas, takeaways, and maybe throw out to us what you are committing to do because of this episode. If you're not already a Productivity Straight Talk Insider, you can join us by free by going to productivitycommunity.com. And there we'll give you a special little link where you can join our private Facebook community, where we have an amazing community of entrepreneurs just like you who are determined to improve their productivity, increase their profits, and decrease stress. Thank you so much for tuning in. If this episode or the show in whole, Productivity Straight Talk, has been of value to you, then leave us a review wherever you're listening to this episode. We would love to hear from you. And today I have a special thank you going out to Katie Kremitzos, who said, "This is such a helpful show. Thank you so much for sharing, Amber." You know what? That personal thank you from Katie, whom I actually personally know, means the most to me because I take every single review to heart, and I do this for you. So if you want to share the love, you can share an episode with a friend, you can share the show with a friend, or you can leave a review. Thank you so much for tuning in this week, and that's my straight talk for you today. And until next time, have a productive week.